This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 136, entitled, The Goal is Not the Goal. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack, and I'm a certified faith-based life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or your circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life, and I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's podcast episode. Can you believe January is just moving right along? Time has a way of doing that. Last week, we explored the difference between negative and positive peace. I hope that discussion helped you start 2025 from a more peaceful place. Today, I'm going to be talking about how the goal isn't the goal. I thought that would be very fitting for January. Did you know that there is a day referred to as the day people stop working on their goals or their New Year's resolutions? It's called Quitter's Day. It's a real thing. It falls on the second Friday of January, which was last Friday, January 10th. Many people stop working on their resolutions around this time of year because the excitement and enthusiasm has worn off. You could also say that maybe they held on to their willpower as long as they could until finally it just petered out. And they're realizing that their goals might be harder to achieve than they thought. But there's a way that we can avoid this, and it's by realizing that the goal isn't actually the goal. When we adopt this mindset, it will transform how we think about goals and personal growth. You know how we often approach goals with this heavy feeling, or I don't know, maybe you haven't, but I know for me, there was a time where I believe things like, I should do this goal, or I need to improve in this area. But what if I told you that there's a way to approach goals that actually feels better, actually feels exciting and fun? In episode number 42 of this podcast, I talk about impact goals. Now, this is a framework that I've adapted from Tanya Dalton. She developed this framework and it changed everything for me. I will include a link in the show notes to that episode as well as the book where she teaches this concept. But here's a quick explanation. I stands for inspirational. Instead of thinking I need to exercise more, maybe we could try thinking I'm developing into someone who honors their body through movement. M is for measurable. But here's the key. Measurements are for celebrating progress, not beating yourself up. P is for purpose-filled. This is your bigger why. It's not about the what, it's about the why behind it. A is for adaptability and challenge. This is my favorite part. This is where we create what Brooke Snow calls floors and ceilings, or as Tanya uses the MTO measurement. M is the minimum goal that you're working towards. T is like the target, the just the right spot goal, or O is for the outrageous goal. Both of these methods, the floors and ceilings and the MTO, create space for growth and grace. You can challenge yourself while also allowing for flexibility. T is for timed. Because someday rarely happens. We need a framework to move us forward. Today, we're going to talk about how to do that and how traditional goal setting often leaves us feeling, well, not that great. So I invite you to revisit the episode number 42 for a more in-depth explanation of the impact framework. So here's the thing. So many of us set goals because we're trying to prove our worth. We think, if I accomplish this thing, then I'll be enough. Or maybe we think, when I reach this milestone, then I'll be happy. Does this sound familiar? But here's what I've learned. Your worth isn't tied to whether you achieve your goals or not. You are already 100% worthy, valuable, and enough right now, exactly as you are. Goals aren't about proving your worth. They're about choosing your adventure. The beauty of this framework is that it's completely customizable to you. Remember, there is no goal police. You get to decide what success looks like for you. Think about it this way. When you're planning a road trip, sure, you have a destination in mind, but is the only purpose of that trip to arrive? Of course not. It's about the diners you discover along the way, the playlist that becomes the soundtrack to your memories, the conversations that unfold when you're miles from home. This is how it can be with our goals. We often get so fixated on reaching the destination that we miss the whole point. We think we're after the end result, losing the weight, getting the promotion, learning the language. But here's the real magic. The goal is actually the journey of becoming. It's who you become while you're pursuing that goal. It's the daily choices, the small wins, the moments of showing up for yourself, the lessons you learn when things don't go as planned. The goal isn't actually the goal. Think about that for a moment. What if instead of viewing goals as a way to fix what's wrong with us, we saw them as opportunity to explore what's possible? What if we approach them with curiosity instead of judgment? This shift in perspective can change everything. Instead of waiting to be happy when you reach some future milestone, you can find joy now. Instead of beating yourself up when things don't go perfectly, you can appreciate the learning opportunities. Instead of seeing obstacles as failures, you can recognize them as part of the story. Think about your goals. What if the real purpose isn't to cross a finish line, but to discover who you can become along the way? What if every step, even the wobbly ones, even the steps backward, is actually part of the journey of becoming? When we can embrace this idea that the goal isn't the goal, it takes so much pressure off. You don't have to wait until you've arrived to feel successful. Success can be in showing up today. Success can be in trying something new. Success can be getting back up when you stumble. This completely transforms how we approach goal setting. Instead of creating rigid, all or nothing targets, we can create spaces for growth and exploration. Instead of focusing solely on the outcome, we can appreciate the small moments of progress. Instead of waiting to celebrate until we've made it, we can find joy in the journey itself. You know what's fascinating about this whole goal isn't the goal concept? It can transform how we handle those setbacks. Let me share a recent experience. Last week, I had a goal to attend the temple. When the time came, my brain started offering all these reasons why I should skip it. I was tired. It was far. It felt hard, right? Your classic brain chatter, right? But here's where this new perspective changed everything. Instead of forcing myself to go out of obligation, I simply reminded myself I'm becoming someone who goes to the temple. That tiny shift changed everything for me. It wasn't about checking a box or proving my worth. It was about who I am becoming. That simple shift in thinking helped me take action, which led to motivation, which built momentum. Many of us believe momentum and motivation just happen, but the truth is they don't just happen. Taking action is what creates motivation, which then creates momentum. It's like this beautiful cycle, but it has to start with action. We just need to take one small step and then another. There is a difference between achievement and growth. When we're just focused on achieving goals, we miss all these beautiful moments along the way. Think about it. If you're working on a health goal, Is it really about the number on the scale, or is it about becoming someone who honors their body, who makes choices from a place of self-respect rather than shame? This is why I love the concept of floors and ceilings in goal setting or in the impact framework. Again, A is for adaptability and C is for challenging. So let's say you want to develop a morning routine. Your floor might simply be getting up 15 minutes earlier than usual. Your ceiling might be a full hour-long morning practice with meditation, exercise, and journaling. Both count as success because both are part of your journey of becoming a morning person. This allows space for growth and grace on your way to becoming. Here's what this can look like in real life. For me, I'm working on learning Italian. Now, there are definitely days when I don't feel motivated to open Duolingo. If I waited for motivation, I might never start. But I've set my floor really low. Just 5 minutes a day, that's it. And here's the magical part. Once I start, I often want to do more. Some days I stick with just 5 minutes, and that's perfect. Other days I get caught up in it and I do several lessons. Both are wins because both are part of becoming someone who speaks Italian. I'm learning words and phrases, but I'm also discovering a new part of myself. I'm becoming someone who embraces being a beginner, someone who's willing to make mistakes and laugh at them, someone who sees learning not as a straight line, but as a beautiful, messy adventure. If you like what you're learning here on the podcast and you'd like to dive deeper into your own relationships or goals, you can schedule a complimentary clarity conversation. We will work together on whatever is causing you a problem or something you want to achieve and experience so that you can find a way forward, so that you can begin creating a life you love. You can begin creating your adventure. Just click the link in the show notes or go to my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and click on the Work With Me tab. When we understand that the goal isn't the goal, we start setting goals differently. Instead of saying, I need to read my scriptures every day, which, let's be honest, can feel like a heavy obligation, we might say, I'm deepening my spiritual journey through intentional study. Do you feel the difference? One is about checking a box. The other is about becoming. Now, this was hard for me in the beginning. I had to really practice this. I used to be so good at all or nothing thinking. If I couldn't do something perfectly, then why do it at all? That was my thought, right? But understanding that the goal isn't the goal freed me from that perfectionism trap. Now I see those imperfect days when I only do the minimum are actually just as valuable as the days when I hit it out of the park. They're all part of the story of becoming. So how do we apply this in real life? Here are some questions to consider. Instead of asking, what do I want to achieve? How about asking, who do I want to become? Or rather than focusing on the end result, what qualities do you want to develop along the way? Or how can you celebrate the journey itself and not just the destination? Remember, when we say the goal isn't the goal, we're not saying goals don't matter. I think they do. They give us direction, purpose, and a way to focus our energy. But they're more like the trellis that supports a growing vine. They provide structure for our growth. The real magic is in the growing itself. When we release ourselves from the pressure of achieving the goal perfectly, something shifts. We stop operating from a place of shame or should, and we start moving from a place of possibility and growth. It's like the difference between dragging yourself to the gym because you hate how you look versus moving your body because you're excited to see what it can do. So this brings us to what I call the 3 shifts of sustainable goal achievement. Number 1, moving from have to get to. Instead of I have to exercise, it becomes I get to move my body and build strength. Number 2, we move from all or nothing to something is better than nothing. Rather than abandoning your goal because you didn't do it perfectly, you celebrate the small steps forward. And number 3, we move from when when then to here now. Instead of when I reach my goal, then I'll be happy, you find joy in the process of becoming. You know what's fascinating? When we approach goals this way, we actually build something more valuable than achievement. We build self-trust. Every time we show up for ourselves, even in the smallest of ways, we're saying, I do what I'm saying I'm going to do. That self-trust becomes the foundation for all of our future growth. I remember when I first started shifting to this mindset, it felt almost too gentle, too easy. We're so conditioned to think that growth has to be hard, that we have to grit, we have to really tap into that willpower, right? That we have to white knuckle our way through the changes. But what if the most sustainable changes come from a place of self-compassion and curiosity? As we close today, I want to remind you, you are not creating goals to prove your worth. You're choosing an adventure because you want to experience life fully. The goal isn't to reach some future destination where you'll finally be enough. The goal is to become more fully yourself along the way. Start with one goal. Use the impact framework as a support structure, not a rigid rule book. And most importantly, enjoy the journey. Because in the end, that's what it's all about. Not the destination, but who you become along the way. Thank you for being here with me today. And until next time, remember, you're already enough. And every step you take is just an opportunity to experience more of who you can become. Thank you for tuning in to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and family. If you want to learn more about me or how to work with me, just visit my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and have a joyful week.